Good evening and welcome to Midnight Movie Club and my review of The Nun. The Nun is directed by Corin Hardy, who also directed 2015's The Hallow, which I was a fan of, so I was happy to hear that he would be at the helm of the newest entry of the Conjuring universe. The film also stars Taissa Farmiga as Sister Irene, who you may know from American Horror Story. Alongside Farmiga we have Damien Bashir, who plays Father Burke, Jonas Bouquet as Frenchie, and Bonnie Aarons as our demonic nun. So when a young nun at a cloistered-off abbey within the Romanian countryside commits suicide, Father Burke and Sister Irene are recruited by the Vatican to go and investigate and determine whether the grounds are still holy or not. They quickly realise that the abbey is under attack from the demon known as Valak, that we previously met in The Conjuring 2. With Hardy's direction, we do get some really solid cinematography with lovely camera movement here and there. It keeps you on slight edge when building up to the scares, but they are very obvious. Hardy really does have a keen eye for gothic imagery and atmosphere, but I think his work comes off better when it is part of his own universe and not someone else's. Sadly, his style is buried under quite a lot of shit in The Nun. A couple of camera techniques are reused to build the exact same jump scare. For example, on two separate occasions, a character hears something off to the left, so the camera pans over to the left with them to have a look. Then when a character turns back, the camera turns back right and pans back to the right with them, and boom, there is a figure of something standing behind them. Twice this exact same scare was used, and it just left me shaking my head and left me bitterly disappointed. You're not scaring anyone with this. Try harder. The Nun really had a weak narrative structure. It seemed to just be scene after scene that didn't carry the story forward but was just there to build up to a jump scare. The pace of this film was just wild and all over the place, which really has you jumping around too much, not giving you any sense of being trapped in this situation. And while we're on that note, the bloody jump scares, where do I start? Not once did The Nun sustain any terror. It only ever chose a quick, predictable jump scare to get audiences out of their seats. There were just things shouting and jumping out at us from the dark, which is just not scary at all. For me personally, I didn't flinch once, and I'm not saying this to sound cool. This film just was not scary at all. Even those people who were jumping were laughing and relieved after the scare, then started preparing for the next scare, giggling and chatting away. People should be gripping their armchairs with fear and breaking out in a cold sweat. But no, sadly, The Nun just wanted us to have a laugh and see who jumped the most. Which, I mean, it's okay if you're on a first date and want a quick scare and want to cuddle into each other, but if you want a truly good horror movie, you will not find it here. The music in The Nun I thought was actually rather good. I liked the haunting score that consisted of creepy choir vocals, but it was just far too telling. The music became quite overbearing in certain parts and indicated exactly to us when a scare was coming, making the jump scare even more on the nose and predictable. If they used the music a little better, it could have helped a lot, I think. Even just cutting it from certain scenes, even though the music was good, just cut it from certain scenes, it would have helped massively. And have it play a smaller role, just adding to the atmosphere instead of telling us explicitly how we should be feeling. Now on to performances, and they were one of the few things in The Nun done well. I thought every performance from the main cast was spot on, even though their characters were weak and lacked real depth. Farmiga was likeable in her role as Sister Irene. We know she's got a decent acting chops within the horror genre, and they're on show once again. Bouquet was strong as Frenchie with the film's comedic relief, although the timing of some of his quips was a bit off, but that's not on him. The jokes he had to work with were definitely not the best. Now, I liked Bashir in this role as Father Burke, and I thought he did bring some nice emotion to it, so it is a shame that this character, Father Burke, is completely fucking useless. He was literally just there to be thrown around like a rag doll, and to add a shitty subplot which contributes to a couple extra shitty jump scares that just felt stitched in there and unneeded. We get it, he's a sketchy priest that the Vatican used to do their dirty work. That's all we need to know. He should have been far more badass than he was, but no, a French-Canadian son of a tomato farmer was more useful in fighting the forces of hell than Father Burke was. So it was a shame his performance was tainted by one of the shittiest characters I've seen in a long time. As I said, completely, utterly useless. Another thing that really annoyed me with The Nun was how cheesy fighting these demonic forces was. They became physical entities that could be beaten over the head with objects, and it just felt much more Evil Dead than something in the Conjuring universe. Now, I won't go into spoilers, but it honestly felt comedic in places, and things happened that just made no sense whatsoever. Some scenes honestly just left me bewildered. There's only so much you can suspend your disbelief before you go, okay, this is fucking dumb. It is much more of a dumb demonic romp in the Romanian countryside, rather than a suspenseful, creepy, supernatural period piece horror. We get a lot of things thrown in our face about how and when Valak came to be resurrected, but it all happens in a 10-second montage of rushed exposition. It just isn't set up at all. The Nun was here to show us the origin story of this demon Valak that has plagued the Conjuring series, but it does absolutely nothing for the Nun. Nothing at all. If you want some good backstory on the Nun, you'll get none. Anyway, moving on, one thing I did like was how they managed to link it back to the first Conjuring, but in saying this, it was just very convenient and kind of tied in there real quick, I think. I thought the way Annabelle creation tied into the beginning of Annabelle was still far better. The only other positives I can take from The Nun are the set and costume design. I thought they were both on point and they helped a lot in adding to the atmosphere Hardy managed to create, but sadly it wasn't enough to make this a good horror, and I honestly think it may be my least favourite of the Conjuring series, or at least tied with Annabelle. The movie starts off with a good opening and gets no better after that. It is a straight nosedive, straight down. But anyway, I am done talking and thinking about this film. I kind of want it out of my head now. They could have done so much more with it, but it just became a very dumb, by the numbers, forgettable modern horror. And the only way it hasn't been buried completely is because of the franchise it's a part of. So with all that said and done, I am going to give The Nun a 2 out of 5 rating. I recommend saving your money on this one, but if you are desperate for a horror at the cinema, then it is better than The Slender Man, but you have been warned. If you enjoyed this review, please drop the video a like, and if you would like more content from myself, make sure to subscribe to join the club. As always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.